Here we are at the planer, ready for step 2 of squaring our boards. In this case, our 3 sides for our Candlebox. It's really important to note what side, in this case your face, what face did you true on the joiner in your previous step. On mine, it's very obvious. This side is still very rough from the lumber mill. This side looks nice and clean because I ran it through the joiner. That's for if you have 4/4 lumber. If you have S2S lumber, you skip step 1 because the face is already trued. But your board looks like this. Both faces look the same. It's important to know which one went through the planer. So what you can do is in pencil, just put an X on both sides, all right? Very important to do both. Don't say, oh, I'll do one. Well, what if you do that one the wrong direction? Now neither side have an X. Just put an X on both sides. It only takes you an extra second. On the planer, for this planer, what I love about it is the height of it. I don't need to be bending over. However, what could be dangerous is there might be more of an inclination for you to look into it when it's running. Never do that. The danger area of this machine, it's fairly safe, but the danger area is behind it, because if something's going to happen, it's going to come out the front. So if I lean down and look, I am now really risking some serious injuries. What happens is on this machine, the blades are in a fixed position up above our table. So the table goes up and down with this crank right here. When you are setting this, there's a couple different ways you can do it. One is you can look at the ruler on the side here. My personal preference is I like taking this, and you can actually kind of feel when you are close. We're going to turn it on to get to our final measurement, but turning it on and off is right over here with a green button, and there's a red push button. If it doesn't turn on, check the red push button that has arrows and give it a twist, and it should pop out. If it's still not turning on the back side here, one of the things I love about this machine is there's also an off button over here, which is really handy. So double check both of those buttons if it does not turn on. When you are using this, it's much easier to use it with a partner. I'm by myself right now, so is it possible to use it by yourself? Absolutely. But having someone who feeds and catches does make life easier. So keep that in mind. When I do this, I am going to have my boards with the side, the face, up that I want plain. So in this case, it's this one. And I have all my boards ready to go. When the planer turns on, it's ready to go. You don't have to wait for one to leave before you put the next one in. The other thing you want to do is, this planer is this wide. Use the whole thing. First timers have a habit of just going to the middle and putting them all through the middle. That'll dull the blades just in the middle. Meanwhile, the right and left side of the blades are going to stay sharp. Use the whole machine. So what I usually do is I'll go to the left, then the middle, then the right, or the right, then the left. Do you have to do it every time? Like, don't stress out about it. Just try and get in the habit that you're not feeding all of them through the same part of the machine. I'm going to turn it on. And as I said, what I like to do is set this by hand. I'm going to keep this flat. Don't let the board come up. I'm going to keep it flat. I'm going to give it nice constant pressure, but the machine's going to grab it and it's going to take over. I'm not reaching in. Once my hands get to this shield, I'm going to stop pushing. Then, if I'm with a partner, I can start feeding the next one. But in this case, I need to go over there and get it. Here's the face that just came out. You can see it has now been planed. At this point, it can be tough to tell which one was jointed, which one was planed. Always keep the side that came out up, keep that up. So if you're catching for someone, do not flip it over. If you're by yourself like I am, this is the side that came up, keep it up. Now, one of the things, hopefully you noticed, was all my shavings that got cut off came out the front here. That's a sign for one of two things. Number one, there's a clog inside of there. Number two, the dust collector's not on. In this case, I don't have the dust collector on for noise, but now I'm going to turn it on as I keep planing. If you do this and stuff comes out on the floor, stop what you're doing, clean up the mess. That's a safety hazard. You could slip. And we definitely don't want that, okay? So now I'm gonna plane my other boards. When do I stop? You stop at the number that the teacher has told you. In most cases, you're stopping at your final thickness. In our case, our final thickness is 1/2 inch. If we are sending it through the abrasive sander or the abrasive planer, your teacher will tell you that, and they'll tell you what measurement to stop at. Another really nice thing to do is if you're working with a partner, do all of your pieces together. So in this case, not only do your 3, but do their 3. If it's the end of the period and it's about cleanup time, get to a point where all the boards are the same. Don't stop in a mid of a run. If it's 3 of you, 4 of you, 5 of you, whatever it might be, if it's almost cleanup time, don't start a new run, all right? Don't start feeding piece 1 of 15. Make sure you're aware of what time it is, when cleanup is, all those things. If you stick to that, it'll make life so much easier for you. When you are planing, we never go more than a 1/2 turn every pass. So if all the boards went through, I would now turn this clockwise down to the bottom. Think of it like a clock. 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Send all my boards through. Now 1/2 turn back up to 12. Send them through again. They're all done. 1/2 turn back down to 6. When you are turning this, whether you're going up or down, if the piece is too thick, you got to go counterclockwise. Make sure this knob here is loose. This is our lock. You don't have to really worry about it, except make sure that this is spinning. If this is tight and I try turning this, I can damage the machine. So first thing, make sure this is nice and loose. When you have turned on the dust collector, it's important to make sure that the blast gate is open. Right now, it is shut. You could tell because the open part is out here. Also, listen to the difference. Now it actually sounds like there's a vacuum on to the machine. Make sure that the dust collector is on and that blast gate is open whenever you're using the planer. Something that I forgot to mention, not super crucial, but it is good if you can remember this, and we try to do this. Once you have one side that's been planed like 2 times, go ahead, flip your boards over, and this is that face that you did on the joiner. Go ahead, send that through once or twice. That'll just ensure that you have the better quality and that your piece has been planed on both sides. So make sure to try and keep that in mind as you are planing your pieces. I'm getting close to the end of having to plane, and if you notice, my handle's down at the 6 o'clock position, right? 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I have my combination square that I usually leave here at the planer set at 1/2 inch. And if I look at this, I'm really close to where I need to be. One of the great things about this planer is whenever you have your handle at 12 o'clock, you are at a measurement. 1/2 inch, 9/16, 5/8, whatever it might be. So that's why it's so important. If you could stick to 12 and 6, you'll have a much easier time with planing your pieces and what thickness they need to be. So let me raise this 1/2 of a turn. Remember, every time is half a turn. I'll send it through. And now if I look at this, I am at 1/2 inch. No guessing, nothing to worry about, because I'm right up here at 12 o'clock. As we now look at our pieces, we're going to notice a few things. One is, where's my marker that has my name and part name? It's gone. Fortunately, there it is on the end grain, right? So that's why it's important to do that when we're doing that rough layout. The other thing to note is that, okay, both faces have been machined, but what really happened here? Well, several things. One is, yes, it's thinner, okay. In this case, it went to 1/2 inch. But the really important thing as it relates to what we call squaring a board is the faces are now parallel. So what does that mean, that the faces are parallel? If you look at this one up here, my two green lines are parallel to one another. Think of it as a set of railroad tracks, right? Identical to one another, running parallel. In this case, we went to a certain thickness as we made them parallel to one another, and that was 1/2 inch. You could have two lines that were both plain or both machined, but not be parallel. This is an extreme what I drew, but it gives you the idea here. So make sure when you're understanding step number 2, planing it thinner, no, that's not the answer. Planed it to a parallel thickness, and in this case, 1/2 inch.